Every year I know we gonna go hard. We been that team ever since Bart started. All my cheese heads go pack go. Ain't showing no mercy, cutting no slack, no. I ain't a bad sport and I'll even wish you good luck. Only thing I will.
What up? Welcome to Lombardi's Legends podcast. It is Dane without Wags. No, Wags is not trying out to be kicker of the Green Bay Packers. He's unable to join here tonight, and we already miss him dearly. So it's just me tonight here, Dane, with Lombardi's Legends podcast. It's a pleasure to be here recording this podcast on a Thursday evening. And folks, just so excited to be back with you and to be talking about Green Bay Packer football. So as we start to come online here, for those of you watching the live stream, thanks for joining. And listen, disappointing end to the game against the Minnesota Vikings last week. The Packers fall to 2-2 on the season, and the first half was a disaster. Second half, team started to really turn around. Really proud of how the guys performed that second half, showed a ton of fight. But the reality is Packers are 2-2 and the Vikings are 4-0. So only way that you can get out of it in the NFL is to dig out of it. And that's what the Packers need to do now. So the Packers this week are heading out west to Los Angeles to play a Los Angeles Rams team that they've had an awful lot of success playing against. Wags and I and some friends have seen the Packers beat the Rams in playoff games at Lambeau. Of course, we know the success that the Packers have had over the last number of years against the Rams, but every season's a new season, and here we are 2-2 against a 1-3 Rams team. And man, I'm excited to talk about the game. I'm excited to sit here with you tonight. And again, Wag's not with us, so I'm going to be going solo tonight. We miss you, buddy, but we'll see you next week. Absolutely. So I think the big news going into this week is that it's Jordan Love, right? Jordan Love did not have, it sounds like, any setbacks with that injury. He certainly looked like he was in a little bit of pain and a little limited, I thought, at times last week. But the good news is he was a full participant today in practice. But really what I'm circling, there's a number of injuries that we need to just highlight here. The first one being Romeo Doubs, new to it this week due to personal issues. Not clear exactly what's happening there, but hopeful everything's well with Romeo Doubs and his family. So he did not practice today. Unclear if that's going to be an indicator of Sunday or not. Edgerrin Cooper, the young linebacker with a ton of speed, did not practice today due to a hip injury. Other guys on the injury list for Green Bay that I think could be particularly impactful, a few ankle injuries here. Luke Musgrave, tight end for the Packers, did not practice with an ankle. And then two that we absolutely saw on Sunday go down with injuries, Christian Watson and Devontae Wyatt. Christian Watson, it sounds like he may have escaped serious injury. Thank goodness. That looked really bad. I thought watching that game live, it sounds like it's going to be a high ankle sprain, really painful, but hopefully he doesn't have to go to the IR at all. Right now, indications are he maybe did escape that major injury. Devontae Wyatt, jury's still out. Not sure what's going on with Devontae Wyatt's injury situation right now entirely, but did not practice yesterday, did not practice today. Think it is fairly likely that, unfortunately, Devontae Wyatt, who's having a breakout third season, is not as likely to be playing Sunday. But strange things happen in the NFL, so we'll be keeping an eye on the injury report going forward. Let's talk about some positive news, though. I hate to sit here and talk about the negatives when we can talk about the positives. So let's do that. Kenny Clark, who did not practice yesterday with toe injury, was a limited participant today. I got to think that Kenny Clark's going to be going this week. Jair Alexander, who missed the game against the Vikings with that groin injury, did not practice yesterday. folks, he was a limited participant today, but positive sign, right? That our cornerback one was able to get out there here, even in a limited fashion today at practice. Elton Jenkins did not practice yesterday, but he is back as a limited participant. First round pick Jordan Morgan back as a limited participant, which is great news. He's been battling the shoulder injury. Sean Ryan's played, I think, really, really well at that right guard position, but offensive line depth is always key. And I got to think that they had been rotating Jordan Morgan in with Sean Ryan. So as he gets healed up, we got to think that Jordan Morgan's going to start getting some snaps with the starting offensive line, even if he's just rotationally in there for series here and there. And then finally, the last one I want to look at, and this is a lengthy injury list today, folks, I'm sorry, is Carrington Valentine, who missed last week. So yes, against the Vikings, the Packers were down Carrington Valentine and Jair Alexander. Jair back as a limited participant today. Carrington Valentine back as a limited participant both yesterday and today. So the Packers starting to get healthy. We lost a couple of guys here. Remains to be seen how long or if they miss games, but we're also seeing guys that have been missed the last week or multiple weeks starting to trend back onto the healthy list. Now, the Rams. Let's talk about them for a second here. The big one, I think, that we all are keeping an eye on and have been keeping an eye on, the Rams are very well aware of, is Cooper Kupp. Did not practice yesterday, did not practice today. I can't imagine that Cooper Kupp goes this week. And then Puka, who is just an absolute stud as a rookie last season, I think really took the league by surprise, is on the injured reserve list, so he will not be playing this week. So the Packers, while they are starting to get healthy in the defensive backfield, certainly, it's another tough week, I think, for the Rams, and it's tough sledding for them at that wide receiver depth chart. So they're going to be going with guys that earlier in the season were projected to be a little further down the depth chart, and now they've been thrust really into starting roles, right? And I'm looking at guys like Tutu Atwell. I'm looking at Demarcus Robinson as starters here this week for the Rams. So all that's to say, folks, it's going to be a heck of a matchup. Yes, the Rams are 1-3, but the Packers are 2-4. It's such an early season. We're still trying to figure out, even though we're already a quarter of the way into the year, trying to figure out who these teams are still. But I just going back for a second, man, so darn proud of how this Green Bay Packers team performed. So they showed so much fight this last week that I'm really inspired by that and have high expectations, even on a road trip going all the way out to LA. So folks, with that injury report out of the way, I want to sit here and I want to talk a little bit with you about some intriguing matchups that I see here this week. And then Wags was kind enough to send along prediction for an X Factor as well as a score prediction at the end of the game. So we'll definitely get, per the usual, to X Factor and player of the game near the end. But right now, I want to sit here, talk a little bit about matchups and talk about how the Packers can go into Los Angeles and beat them. And you know what? I'm going to start with this Packers offense. Let's just get to it right away. Jordan Love coming back last week. Showed a little bit of rust. He had a ton of yards. He had almost 400 yards passing. He had 3 touchdowns, but also fairly uncharacteristically threw 3 interceptions in that matchup. And, it was clear he was a little bit limited with his mobility. And, he showed some challenges there, but he also kept going back to the well and played some really good football in some important moments. So with all of that said, this Rams team, let's talk about this Rams defense. This is a Rams defense that has been, frankly, getting gutted. They're a 3-4 defense, traditionally, but they play a lot of nickel ball as well. And they've had a really hard time this season getting off the field, especially on third and down distances. And in fact, they're averaging, allowing over 8 yards per passing attempt against opposing teams, and they are dead last in the NFL. So what that tells me, folks, is the key to this matchup instantly is Jordan Love and this Green Bay Packer pass catchers and offensive line dictating the game early and dictating this game often through the air. Now, of course, we talked a bit about injuries. That limiting factor is if Romeo Doubs is able to go. And certainly if, and I think it's less likely Christian Watson's able to go. So really what I'm circling right now is Dontavian Wicks, who had a phenomenal week 4. I'm expecting him to get a ton of snaps. I'm also really keying in on Jaden Reed, who, last year was a bit of a budding star. Now he is a star in this league. He really is becoming a stud for this Green Bay Packers team. So I look at both of those two wide receivers. And then this might be a big week for somebody like a Bo Melton or a Malik Heath or both of them. What's up, Wayne? Good to see you. I mentioned at the top, and Wayne in our chat, I mentioned in the top that Wags can't join today. So y'all are just stuck with me, but we're sitting here talking Packer football. And that's really the key for this matchup is who's going to step up. Last week, Dontavian Wicks yet again stepped up. He's had tremendous success finding ways to get open as a wide receiver in the league through 1.4 seasons in the league. He's been just tremendous. Jaden Reed has been terrific as well. But is it going to be a Bo Melton or a Malik Heath? Do the Packers call up somebody like a Hicks off of the practice squad to come in and pitch in a wide receiver? What does that look like? It remains to be seen entirely. But I'll tell you what, with the Rams giving up 8+ yards per pass attempt this year, defensively per pass. I really like the foursome of Wicks, Reed, Melton, and Heath. I think that we can really attack them down the field. When I look at this Rams defense, I'm just going to I'm scanning their roster. I mean, Quentin Lake has probably been their best cornerback, and he's the guy in the slot. So he's going to be the guy that oftentimes is going to be shadowing and trying to cover up Jaden Reed. That's probably one of the key matchups I'm going to be highlighting because it's their best corner, at least through early this season. Really versus, I would argue, the Packers' most consistently solid wide receiver in Jaden Reed, who can, of course, game break, but just every game causes problems for opposing defenses. So that's a matchup instantly that I'm excited to watch. And I think that Jaden Reed, although Quentin Lake is a talented cornerback, Jaden Reed can absolutely exploit. Now on the outside, that's where we're looking at the Bo Meltons and the Malik Heaths on one end, but certainly Dontavian Wicks on the other. Love the matchup against either Kobe Durant or Tre'Davious White. Tre'Davious White, of course, the former Buffalo Bill cornerback, who's getting a little bit later into his career here. But Dontavian Wicks, I think can really work the middle of the field against this Rams defense, and I think can probably put quite a bit of stress on these corners. But it's all incumbent on the Green Bay Packers offensive line up front, keeping Jordan Love upright, right? So that's just so crucially important. And I'm circling Jared Verse from this Rams defense on my calendar. Jared Verse, folks, he was a first-round pick by the Los Angeles Rams this season, and his stats don't necessarily jump off at you if you're looking purely at tackles and sacks. I think he has 1 sack on the season, but he's somebody that has been able to get a very, very consistent pressure on the quarterback. So he's somebody that I think I'm circling that matchup as well between both he and Rasheed Walker, Packers left tackle here. That's a matchup to watch early and watch often. I think that they're going to be going at it. As well as Jared Verse has been at pressuring the quarterback, he's had a ton of missed tackles. By my count, he's had 11 missed tackles this season, which is, I believe, tied for the NFL lead. So he's young, he's talented, he's aggressive, but sometimes he over pursues. Sometimes he doesn't put himself in the best position. And I think that that's another opportunity for this Green Bay Packers offense to exploit the Rams. On the other side there, when whether I'm looking at Byron Young, kind of their other outside linebacker there, kind of their edge version, their edge in this defensive scheme. He's going to have his hands awfully full against Zach Tom. I think that the Packers, while they can attack downfield early and often against this Rams defense, and I don't believe Matt LaFleur is going to get too cute and try to do something outside of just attacking the Rams' weakness, which is their pass defense. I would like to see Jacobs really get some touches this week as well. And I think it's one of those weeks where, it's a chicken or an egg situation, right? Can you run the ball? So you open the pass? Can you open, do you pass the ball to open up the run? I think this is a week where you pass that ball, and that's going to open up some pretty significant lanes for Jacobs. So that's something that I really want to stress is I like what Jacobs has been able to do. I really like what Emmanuel Wilson's been able to do this year. This offensive line, I think, the Green Bay Packers has an ability to impose themselves on Bobby Brown III, on Kobe Turner, and some of these Rams defenders that can be active and can shoot gaps and can do things in limited capacity. But I don't think that this is a Rams defense that should necessarily scare the Green Bay Packers or Green Bay Packer fans. I think they have some good pieces, as many defenses in the NFL do, but I don't think that they have that overwhelming group tackle mentality that great defenses in the NFL have. And they certainly are missing their former All-Pro defensive tackle who retired this offseason. So I like the Packers' chances against this pass defense of the Rams, but I also think that there's going to be lanes for the Packers to run the ball fairly consistently this year. And I'm looking in the chat here. Wayne, what's up? All I want to see, he says, is to strike first and score first on offense, whether it's on the ground, through the air. Defense, on the other hand, gets sacks and fumble recoveries, and McKinney gets his 5th or 6th interceptions. I love that idea, Wayne. I think that's a great idea. The key here is going to be, I think, as we flip over to defense, that Green Bay Packers pass rush. Something where 2 weeks ago, the Packers just lit up the scoreboard, right? They had 8 sacks, just a ton of pressures. And then last week kind of reverted back a little bit here. And I'll tell you what, looking across the offensive line for this Los Angeles Rams offensive line with guys like Rob Haverstein and Jackson on the ends, this is a prime week for Rashawn Gary, I think, to get off the snide and get his first sack of the season. I think Preston Smith, we said it last week, is just consistently a professional on this defense. He's not necessarily always flashy, but he always does what this Packers, the coordinator, what the coaching staff asks him to do. And he's just one of those guys that's always reliable. Rashawn Gary, on the other hand, is, I think, very much the emotional leader of this defense. He's somebody that has shown he can play at an exceedingly high level. But this year, the sacks just haven't come yet. And the Packers have of course, played a number of quarterbacks that have been pretty darn nimble and pretty darn able to move the pocket and get out of the pocket. This is a great week for this Packers pass rush to just go get after it and go hit the quarterback. This offensive line, while very good in the run game, and we'll talk about that momentarily, this is not an offensive line that I think should, much like the defense of the Rams, it's not an offensive line that should necessarily scare us. And I think that Rashawn Gary in particular should find some success this week, whether he's lined up against Jackson or Rob Havenstein. He's been close on so many occasions. I know he had a sack that was called back due to a penalty, but Rashawn Gary, I think, expects so much of himself. I know he's got to be so darn frustrated. And I just think that this is a great week on the road. It's going to be a hot game, 89 degrees I saw as a potential high for Rashawn Gary to get after it, but also for the Packers defensive line and edge rushers to really show some depth this week. This is a team that can rotate our starters, but Lucas Van Ness as well as Enigbari. It's a week where I really want to see Carl Brooks and, of course, Kenny Clark, who's been limited but is going to be coming back. And maybe this is an opportunity with Devontae Wyatt very likely being out, where maybe Colby Wooden has a chance to step in there a little bit more. And then, TJ Slayton as our run stuffer. But this is a defensive line that we truly have such high hopes and a lot of trust in. And they've shown glimpses of what they can do and what they can be capable of in this Coach Hafley defense. But, it's week 5 in the NFL, and the longer you get in the season, it's the more of this is who you are in this league. I expect this to be a week where the Packers can really attack against an aging Matthew Stafford, and especially a Matthew Stafford that has such a limited number of pass catchers. As I mentioned at the top of the podcast, Puka's out. Cooper Kupp is going to be out again. As the Packers defensive backs are getting healthy, and this Packers edge rusher should be able to really tee off at them. If Matthew Stafford is forced to sit back in the pocket and make throws. That being said, I think the secret weapon that's not really so much of a secret for the Los Angeles Rams is Kyren Williams. Kyren Williams, just an exceedingly talented running back. He's a guy who can flip the script just like that. He can just completely get after it on a dime. He's got a nose for the end zone. He is great vision. And he's the problem right now with Kupp and Puka out. He is the problem that the Green Bay Packers really need to pay attention to and need to be mindful of. So how do the Packers bottle up somebody like a Kyren Williams? It starts up front, folks, with TJ Slayton. It starts up front with some of the other defensive linemen of the Green Bay Packers. And I think that this is an opportunity really for the Green Bay Packers defense to, really take charge against an inferior opponent. And I think that this is really an opportunity for the Green Bay Packers to just really take charge against this defensive line, or against this offensive line this week. Now, if Kyren Williams starts to rip off some big runs against the Packers, that's where it gets hard, because they start to flip the field and the field position. And that's where, the Packers might be getting into trouble. So the key is, as it is many weeks, right, is to get NFL offenses into 3rd and long. Right. Try to get them in there. But the Rams in particular, Matthew Stafford, we've seen it, Packer fans, over the years, both with the Rams, but especially with the Lions. Matt Stafford, if he does those 3-step drops, he can find a wide receiver pretty darn quickly, even if they are maybe not your superstar wideouts. We saw it, like I said, against the Detroit Lions time and time again over his career in Detroit. So if Stafford has, is afforded the opportunity, I should say, on 3rd and short to just kind of drop back, find that first read and complete the pass for a couple of yards, this could be a long day for the defense. But if the Packers, which I believe they can do, bottle up Kyren Williams, and maybe not entirely, but if they can keep him, in that 70-yard range on the ground, then I think that this is a real chance for this Packers team to become opportunistic, maybe force some Matthew Stafford turnovers, maybe just put the Rams into some 3rd and longs, put them in some uncomfortable positions, put them in some uncomfortable situations. And really, folks, that's what we're looking to accomplish here, I think, against the Rams this week. So we look at this, and I wonder how the Packers do that, and how do they stop Kyren Williams? And it does start up front, but also I'm circling Quay Walker. I'll just say it right away. Quay Walker, a former 1st-round pick of the Green Bay Packers, playing a ton of snaps this year, and I would say out of a lot of the defenders on this Packers defense, with the coaching switch, I would say Quay Walker looks a little less confident than some of the other guys with this more aggressive ball switch. And I don't know how to put my finger on it exactly, but this is kind of the time for Quay to ascend. And he's got all the skills, right? He's such a fast runner side to side. He's a guy who has a magnificent physical profile. He's somebody that has a pedigree. He's somebody that I think has a really high football IQ. Now it's time to put it together. And the Packers, I'll argue, will go as far as somebody like a Quay Walker can take them, right? It's time for Quay Walker to become that imposing presence. Right now, I think that there's stretches where Quay kind of gets lost, in the swell, so to speak, of the game. And I think he has every chance to be a guy that just stands out week in, week out, making impact plays. But it feels like it hasn't quite come together for him. And this is a great chance. This is a great week in this hot game against a stud running back, against a limited passing team, where Quay can just make his impact felt, make some plays, run downfield, and wrap up the ball carrier. And especially, when the ball carrier's in the open field, and just bring him down and make those sure tackles. So that's what I'm looking for out of this Packers defense. That's what I'm looking for out of Quay Walker. Again, optimistic about this game this week. But those are some of the key matchups that I see against the Rams on both the offensive and the defensive side. Now, folks, without Wags here, I'm talking to myself. I'm not used to doing this all on my own. So what I want to do now is I just want to highlight a couple of the X factors that I think the Packers could have. I want to make some bold predictions of score. Wags was kind enough to send me an X factor. He was kind enough to send me his score prediction. And then I'm going to get out of here for the night. And hopefully folks have enjoyed this. I know it's not the same without Wags, but we have to talk Packers football, right? It's week 5. We love our Green Bay Packers, folks. We have to talk about the Packers whenever we have an opportunity. There's only so many games in the regular season. So X factors, let's just get right into it. Our Leap X factors of the week. And Wags sent me one. I'm pulling it up right now. I'm pulling it up on my phone. So Wags wanted to go with Eric Wilson, linebacker for the Green Bay Packers, is going to be his defensive X factor this year. And he didn't give me a reason why, so I'm going to give it for him. Veteran linebacker, Isaiah McDuffie's had some challenges in the passing game. Edgerrin Cooper looking limited with the injury on the injury report. And now, we're looking at Quay Walker. And we're looking at somebody else. Who else is that other guy that's going to make an impact? So I think Wags going with Wilson this week. You know what? And I'm wondering if he's going with Eric Wilson or if he's going with Emmanuel Wilson. So I'm going to say he gave me E. Wilson. I'm going to go on the defensive side. He's going to go with Eric Wilson. On the offensive side, he's going to go with Emmanuel Wilson. That's just what I'm going to say. I'm going to tell you why, because he and I have done this podcast long enough. I think I can speak for him on this front. Emmanuel Wilson, John Jacobs has been really, really good for the Packers. Emmanuel Wilson, though, has been a tremendous, I don't even want to say change of pace back. I don't think that's fair with what Wilson's been able to do for the Packers so far this season as the RB2. He's somebody that just runs downhill. He runs aggressively. He's been able to just take what's blocked for him plus falling forward, right? And those are things that you really like to see. And against this Rams defense, this is just a defense that, we're going to be passing that ball. I really do believe Jordan Love's going to air it out against the Rams, but somebody's going to pick up some carries on the ground. And while Jacobs has been tremendous, even though he hasn't gotten in the end zone as much as I think fantasy or whatever wants, he's been a really solid running back to anybody who's watched the game, and better than solid. He's been a very good running back. But what a great week for somebody like Emmanuel Wilson to just, get after it, get in the end zone again, and, put up some points for the Packers. He's been a really good pass blocker as well, which I don't think gets enough credit traditionally from the casual fan. But you like your quarterback, your running back better pick up a blitzer, right? And that's what Emmanuel Wilson has been able to do for this Green Bay Packers team so far. But this week, great week potentially for Emmanuel Wilson as Wags' offensive X factor. For me, I'm going to go, let's start on the offense for me. My X factor this week is going to be I'm going to go Bo Melton. Bo Melton, potentially with Christian Watson or Romeo Doubs both being out this week, Bo Melton's going to have an opportunity to shine, especially on the outside. I mentioned earlier in this podcast that as good as Jaden Reed's been, Quentin Lake has been, somebody that has probably been the best corner for the Rams this year. That doesn't mean Jaden Reed doesn't get the ball. He's going to get the ball. He's going to get his. But somebody else on the outside is going to have to make some plays, I think, and stretch the field against a Rams defense that really is pretty poor against the pass. So, I think right now, Dontavian Wicks, understandably and rightfully so, is a very popular pick. But I'm going to go with Bo Melton. I think he's a guy who can stretch the field. He's a guy who's just got just superb speed at the position. Someone that I know showed us last season in real game time can make some massive plays. And I think that this year, hasn't had that breakout performance yet, but this could just be a chunk game, a game where he's getting some chunk plays. So Bo Melton's going to be my X factor on the offensive side of the ball. On the defensive side of the ball for the Green Bay Packers, I am going to go with Carrington Valentine. Carrington Valentine, been injured. He's going to be coming back this week. I know Jair Alexander coming back as well, but I'm going with Carrington Valentine because if Ja's back, then I think that the Rams are going to be looking at other sides of the field. The Rams, without either real stud at wide receiver right now, are going to try to. Stafford's pretty darn good at spreading the ball around to the Tutu Atwells or the Jordan Whittingtons of the world or the Marcus Robinsons, and the Packers cornerbacks are going to have to step up and make some pretty significant impact in this game. And I could see Stafford zeroing in the second year cornerback in Carrington and going, he's coming back from injury. I'm going to try to pick on this guy a little bit and make him prove himself. So if Carrington Valentine can come back and play really strong football the way that we know that he can, and stick with guys like Jordan Whittington and Tutu Atwell, which certain he has the ability to do that. It's going to be a long day for Matthew Stafford. He's going to be running out of passing options. So I'm going with Carrington Valentine as my X factor on the defensive side of the ball. So folks, we're getting close to the end, and getting close to the end here, I have to, and John, what's up in the chat as well, saying he wants to see more Wicks. Wicks has been tremendous, hasn't he? He's been so darn good. I read somewhere recently he has the best percentage of yardage of getting open in the NFL right now. So he's getting open with space around him from defenders at a clip that nobody's better at. So Wicks has just been a tremendous find by Gutekunst to bring him in last year. And Wicks just continues, I think, to ascend. He's had some drop issues, but he's going to clean that up. He's so darn talented. But to be able to get open and be that capable for this Green Bay Packers offense is just critical. So I hear you on Dontavian Wicks. So folks, it is our score prediction time. If you have a prediction for the score, please feel free to drop it in the chat. We would love to see them. We're streaming live right now on our Facebook and Insta and on YouTube. And of course, I know so many folks are going to be listening to this later on, but we love to stream when we can just to engage. So John has the Packers at 31-10. I love that, John. I think that that's a fantastic score. I like the optimism this week. This could be a high scoring game for the Packers. I would completely agree. I'm going to go slightly under. I'm going to go 27-17 Green Bay Packers. I think that the Packers, 27-14 is what I have. I think that the Packers defense is going to step up and play really, really good ball this week. And as I think that Williams is going to get his in the Rams backfield. He is too good to just completely, minimize. But I think that overall this Packers defense is going to be overwhelming for the Rams. So the Packers going on the road in a hot game, they're going to show off some depth on the defensive side. They're going to rotate their pass rushers in. They're going to put Matthew Stafford in some difficult situations, and the Packers are going to come out of the game with the victory. And again, I had them at 27-14. Wag sent me a score prediction. That's why I got my score and his confused. He had 27-17 Green Bay Packers over the Rams. And I think for many of the same reasons, right? I think that this is a Packers offense, Jordan Love proving that he can just air it out even after missing a couple games, comes right back. And this week, all the same things, but needs to take care of the ball, not turn the ball over the way that we did last week against the Vikings. And folks, we need to minimize the penalties. And I can't believe I didn't lead with that this week, but the penalties have been crucial. They've been really, really frustrating. We said it last week. Sometimes you can get away with penalties. Sometimes you can get away with turnovers. It's very rare in this league you can get away with penalties and turnovers. So that's a pretty tough pill to swallow. So, the Packers need to minimize that, but we're optimistic this week, folks, that the Green Bay Packers are going to go on the road and push it to 3-2. And it's imperative that they do. This is an incredibly competitive NFC North this year. The Vikings are surprising everybody, I think, with their 4-0 record. The Bears, young, but can win some football games. The Detroit Lions proved last year that they could potentially be the real deal. They've got really good coaching out there in Detroit. So the Packers need to, start winning ball games. That's just the brass tacks, and they've done a good job of staying afloat while Jordan's hurt, but now Jordan's back. Injuries are part of the game, and I think that the Packers have all the ability of the world, but they need to go out in LA this week, I think, and win this ball game, make us an awful lot happier at our next podcast. I'll tell you that if the Packers do win. John asked how my baby was. Baby's really good. Thanks so much, man, for asking. Got a little baby boy. That's why I missed a pod a couple weeks ago, just to welcome him into the world. But folks, we're Lombardi's Legends podcast. And tonight I am a legend. Wags is now with us. We miss you, Wags. We will see you next week. And folks, remember, you can find us on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, wherever you find your podcast, folks, on Apple and Spotify. We love doing this podcast so much. We're so grateful for all of you. So thank you so much for joining us. Be legendary and go Pack go.
Every year I know we gonna go hard. We been that team ever since Bart started. All my cheese heads go Pack go. Ain't showing no mercy, cutting no slack, no. I ain't a bad sport and I'll even wish you good luck. Only thing I will